So recently, people have been somewhat complaining about historical weapons enlisted, and this really has to do with the Pacific. Of course, this has to deal with the massive amount of weapons that are somewhat historically inaccurate, or straight outright historically inaccurate in terms of the time period. However, today's question is whether enlisted needs to be even historically accurate. Now, before we're gonna even cover this, I actually decided to pull one of my subscribers/friends to ask a question. What is historical accuracy? And the response is, well, I would respond. It is anything that is accurate to history as long as it closely follows the event. And this is what really could make the historically accuracy tell. For one, what is acceptable as historical accuracy? For those who don't know, look at Moscow. Yes, there is going to be the MKB-42, which, let's be honest, it was not in Moscow, at least not as a frontline weapon used by troops out en masse. However, it was given to experimental units, and yes, although you cannot have an MKB-42 in Moscow, there was documents supporting the fact that the German army did test fire it in around the Moscow area, so that's at least somewhat accurate. But that said, that gets on to my next point. Enlisted doesn't have to be accurate. Case in point, if a weapon is closely related or acquired and tested, even if it's highly experimental, like the Otsu rifle, the Hiei rifle, and the MKB-43s, or 42s in this case, Enlisted is going to be getting a lot of weapons that could be essentially missing or need to balance the game, and that is what's really important. As of right now, Enlisted has done actually quite a good job of historical accuracy, and when I mean a good job, I mean like not adding AK-47s like Vanguard has. But that said, really good job from Enlisted on their quote-unquote historical accuracy. Of course, it's not 100% historically accurate, and I don't really expect Enlisted to do 100% historically accurate, because if you want the best historical accuracy, one shot you'll be dead. You cannot get up from the grave, and that's how Enlisted works. At least how it should work if it wants to replicate historical accuracy. Honestly, I would suggest a game like Hell Let Loose or Postscriptum. But that said, Enlisted doesn't need to be historically accurate, at least not outrageously inaccurate. A good example of not being outrageously historically accurate is the lunge mine. For one, the lunge mine was a mine used by the Japanese to literally use it on a tank, but it was highly experimental and it was deployed in 1944. Considering the fact that the Battle of Guadalcanal is around 1942-1943, you can argue it is highly historically inaccurate, and you will be definitely right. No one is using lunge mines at that point in the stage of the Guadalcanal campaign. However, this is where Enlisted wording come into play, and you can see this through Enlisted Script. For one, you can say that the Battle of Guadalcanal is not even mentioned, only except for in highly inspired by Guadalcanal. And it does say that the Pacific War instead of the Battle of Guadalcanal, meaning that everything that the Japanese use, or anything that the Americans use, is fair game for the Pacific. So you might actually get Pershings or Chinook tanks. I don't know. But this attitude of the Pacific campaign is actually quite ingenious, not only since you can get out highly experimental weapons, but especially any Japanese weapon that can be used in World War II, while at the same time being mildly historically accurate. Once again, where I'm not talking about giving Japanese troops AK-47s or anything, but that's the point. Enlisted cannot be wildly historically accurate. You cannot give STG-44s in 1940. It's not going to make sense. And you seriously cannot give any heavy weapons, quote-unquote heavy weapons, to like helicopters in 1945, because once again, it's not historically accurate. But that said, I am willing to bend the rules, not only because this is going to help Enlisted in the long run, it's going to make the fun and the gameplay and the game more interesting, so that's going to be an interesting part of Enlisted, which is really important. I really highly suggest that a game is going to be more balanced and playable, or I should say historically accurate, which, let's be honest, I honestly will say historical accuracy comes in second. Once again, historical accuracy does have to be around somewhere, and I'm getting quite loose because I know what Enlisted is feeling. Let's just look at the Pacific. In terms of semi-automatic rifles, the Japanese really didn't even use Hiei rifles. In my weapon suggestion videos, the Hiei rifle was highly experimental. The Otsu rifle is even more experimental, a copy of the ZH-29, so that's how experimental it was. But that said, it doesn't have to be historically accurate, not to the bone, but it does have to be close enough. But that said, this is all it for today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.